and where. And it's a very mixed feeling, very mixed feeling. Allow me now to share some views with you using very much the outline, the outcome document. There's a reason for that. The outcome document has been adopted, and this is the document that the international community and the UN system will have to build upon. With that being said, what else and what must the group society outside of the intergovernmental process should do? And there are a lot of things we can be doing. This is from the UNCSD fact sheets, how many people participated, etc., etc., etc. And there's also one little bullet point there which I did not put in. And there is a tracking of the voluntary commitments. Last figure was surrender about $500 billion voluntary commitments, something like that, between 500 to 600. ADB Bintu Lohani mentioned with the World Bank, etc., they pledged hundreds of billions just on one transportation alone. So the arithmetic for the voluntary contribution to this Rio+20 process is growing, but I decided not to use that figure. So if one were to look at the statistics, very good turnout, and we could say it was successful from that point of view. 1992, 2012, I am human being. I may be a bit biased, but I try not to be. Look at some of the 1992 UNCED highlights, and on your right-hand side, the UNCSD highlights. And even for myself, the acronym of UNCED and UNCSD, I was a bit confused which one was talking about which one, because they were very similar. So there were a number of major achievements, but I just want to highlight a number of them. And then the concept and principle of sustainable development was very much adopted by governments, by the private sector, NGOs, etc., etc. It really received legitimacy. Then we had Agenda 21, a framework for action, all the conventions which are signed there. But I think what is very important is these two. Really energize governments and all the major groups. The major groups concept came out of the preparatory process of the first Earth Summit. When we started off, there were only 154 NGOs accredited ECOSOC. Maurice Strong said that cannot be. 75% were all from developed countries. So we found a way to open it up, and we used two criteria, and you wish to consider that. Is it relevant? Is it pertinent? Pertinent to sustainable development, relevant, do they have the experience? Using these two criteria, we must have registered over 50,000 NGOs. And because of that, it opened up the floodgate for the so-called civil society NGOs to take part in every major international meeting after that. And the 9 major groups, which is a bit outdated now. I tried so hard to see how we could modify that, but I was not successful, so we are stuck with the major group. And climate change was just emerging. At the Rio+20, the concept of green economy within the context of sustainable development, poverty eradication was sort of accepted, but we didn't go further than that. And you've heard a lot about this, about the debate, the acrimonious debate, etc., that went on. A lot more work to be done. But I think what is very important is explicitly linking poverty eradication to the green economy, to sustainable development. We did not have that earlier in 1992. It emerged in the Johannesburg, but it really had the strong linkages at Rio+20, and that's very important. Outcome document, the future we want, and I will have a last slide that I introduced it this morning. I was encouraged to do so, but some may find it a little bit controversial. But here, I said, amongst friends, I have decided to introduce the last slide, 14. I'll come back to that. Many of you know that on Friday, till Friday before the formal session started, when all the heads of governments came in, and when the third PrepCon finished, it was about 11 o'clock, Surinder, when it finished, half this document, way forward, still had brackets. Then during the weekend on Saturday, third PrepCon finished, Brazilian foreign minister took over, about 12 o'clock, jam-packed with people. He said that, well, here's the document, there's consensus, adopted. No change, every change was, brackets were removed. Good, but it shows that there's some very major issues that needs to be resolved. At UNCSD, clearly the emergence of the BRIC countries. You just have to go across the street at Athens Park and see their pavilion there, etc., and the parallel events that they organize. Overshadowed by the European debt crisis, climate change was all over, as Dr. Pachauri said so. The framework for action and follow-up, it's a whole mix. Everything and everything is in there. And I just give you this list, which you can see in the background document, and I did not add in there Africa, the small island state, etc. It got into this framework. But here, it's a mix of issues, thematic, etc. And depending where we are, where we come from, we can pick and choose. This will have significant implications as we attempt to develop the SDGs. On paragraph 245 of the outcome document, in red is mine, Nathan, because I want to bring to your attention, please, the language, and I hope the interpreters will interpret the language in red correctly. In the UN system, the documents, everything that's so important is in words and in commas and punctuations. Every word, every comma is negotiated. So, para 25 says, we underscore that the MDG is a useful tool, etc., etc. And at the end, we therefore remain firmly committed to their full and timely achievement. So there was a strong political re-endorsement of the MDGs, although we know that they are major omissions in the MDG. Energy is not in there, a number of other things.